We meet Butch, who is AKA Bullet in this movie. This is Mickey Rourke, and Mickey Rourke is super cool guy in prison. He's being released this day. And it's that classic, the rolling gates open. He walks out with his street clothes and they say, you son of a bitch. They get in the car and Nick, they think they're from New York City and they're like, we got to go back to Brooklyn, but we got to roll back in pumping some jams. We're going to learn what Bullet's favorite song is in this fucking movie. It's going to be Barry White's Never Gonna Give You Up. And right off the bat, Nick, we're just going straight back into a life of crime. Because Butch Bullet Stein is a fucking problem, dude.
8 years of being in prison didn't get him clean. He needs drugs, and he needs them now.
This is like hour 2 of getting out of prison after 8 years. He fucks up some guys, stabs a guy in the eye, and immediately does heroin. And then, what's back, Nick? Our favorite song of this movie, Barry White's Never Gonna Give Up. Can you sing it with me so we don't have to play it and pay those copyrights?
I can't sing Barry White, and I will not try to.
Shooting up heroin. Shooting up heroin in my Cadillac. Shooting it up all night. Gotta do some mother heroin because I'm a problem.
You know what you're getting into. This is Bullet, bitch.
What's poppin', Colonel? Benny Noodle, what's going on? It's Just Played. I'm one of your hosts. I am Jimmy Crackcorn. I am Captain Pop. I am Colonel, reporting for duty on my podcast duty, my hobby, my passion, my love, which perfectly describes my co-host, my best friend, Mr. Nicholas Justice.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, glad to be back on the pod. Glad to be doing this again. You know me, I'm the corn dog that keeps on rolling.
How you doing, buddy?
Another day, another dollar, all the classic white guy sayings, another day in paradise. I got them all. I got them all in my chamber.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. It's a day that ends in a Y, so it's a good day. Heard that one the other day, and I'm not adopting it, but I thought I'd share it. So, James, yeah, the movie we're watching.
Well, I'm doing really good. I'm glad you asked. Before the podcast, I kind of unloaded you on everything that was going wrong in my life. Work is kind of just throwing me through the ringer. My parents fell victim to fraud without getting into much detail, but needless to say, it's been a pretty fucking shitty day for Captain Pop over here. So I'm hoping at least this will make me feel better. And I'm not going to lie, Nick. This movie might just get caught in the crossfire of my shitty ass day. So I'm happy we're not talking about The Last Crusade, because that would have been devastating. And I'm totally fine putting the reticle on this movie called Bullet from 1996. Have you heard about it? Probably not.
I had not. I do know of the other Bullet.
When you say the movie Bullet, people think of the Steve McQueen movie from the late 60s. Very revolutionary action movie. Car chases in that movie were groundbreaking for the time. That's spelled with a IT, but this is E.T., not extraterrestrial, not Steven Spielberg, not even close. This is Bullet, directed by Julian Temple, starring Mickey Rourke and Tupac. Probably something you haven't heard of before, and we're going to get all up in that. But first, Nick, we got to pop the corn, we got to roll the dogs, we got to get warmed up, and we're going to do that with a quiz.
It is a grid-style trivia game. So you have categories that are vertical, categories that are horizontal, and you have to match up the category, usually to an actor or director, and you get one guess per square to get a perfect game. And I think last pod, we had ourselves a perfect game, so we're trying to make it streak. We're trying to restart our streak.
Yeah, we had our streak broken, but this could be number 2 in a row. And the more rare the movie is, the higher the score we get. And we're always going for that top percentage of the day with those rare answers. Nick, you have proven to be a valuable asset to this quiz. Let's see if we can keep the train rolling. Probably not going to get a layup like we had last time, but let's see what we got. Vertical row, we got director Quentin Tarantino, actor John Travolta, and actor Pam Grier.
On our horizontal roll, we have release date 1995 to 04, 2-word title, and character name and title.
All right.
How you feeling about this one, James?
I'm looking at Pam Grier, who is a friend of the show, technically.
I was going to say,
however,
two-time friend of the show.
Two-time? What was she in? Because she's Carjack Malone.
Yeah, this is also Pluto Nash's mom.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, spoilers.
I have Pam Grier locked up, my friend.
Yeah, and I know she was kind of in that blaxploitation era of movies and a lot of, but I'm not sure if I know the names of those ones.
Well, not to spoil it, we can just get this right out of the way. This is Foxy Brown. This is who Foxy Cleopatra was modeled after in Austin Powers Goldmember.
Okay, all right. Well, we're starting fast and furious. Pam Grier, the Pam Grier row. So release date 1995, 2004. Seems like we got an answer.
Escape from LA.
I was gonna say. Oh, yeah. No, you're right because Pluto Nash can be the name and the title.
Character name and title. That's right.
And then Foxy Brown. Okay, because Escape from LA was 96 or 7?
96.
Oh, so dog. This was the one I was worried about, but thank God for the pod because we got some answers. Okay, let's just start in order here. Let's go release date, and we're going to type in Escape from LA.
Yep. We got 13%.
Let's go, baby.
That's a great place to start.
Moving on over.
2-word title. Going Foxy Brown.
Okay, Foxy Brown, 2-word title. Pam Grier. Guessing. It's a popular answer, but it's correct, and that means our streak is alive. And finally, this is giving me my favorite answer of the bunch, being this is a movie we watched in year 1, season 1, The Adventures of Pluto Nash, for character name and title, and Pam Grier.
Oh, James.
Oh, yeah.
The 2%.
Okay.
2.
I was actually going to say it before the quiz started, especially with this movie that we're reviewing this week. I thought we got to get more movies that we watched in these quizzes. It has to happen at some point. And it just happened twice on the actor I was least confident about.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it's going to happen again for John Travolta because we watched a little movie called Battlefield Earth.
Oh, yeah, it's going down. So for John Travolta and release date, we can 100% go for the worst movie of year 1, Battlefield Earth. At least one of the worst movies.
Battlefield Earth, here we go.
10%, dog.
10%.
Let's go.
We take it.
Okay, 2-word title and then character name and title.
So let's go with 2-word title.
Obvious answer is going to be Pulp Fiction, and guess what? We're not going to do that.
Get Shorty's another obvious one. We're not
Be
doing
Cool.
that.
Be Cool's the sequel to that.
Yeah, I was thinking a little different one here. An adventure of 4 men who bought motorcycles and decided to go across the country.
You're not talking about Wild Hogs, are you?
I'm talking Wild Hogs.
I personally love Wild Hogs, and I would love to do Wild Hogs with you.
Wild Hogs it is.
Let's go. Nice.
4%, baby.
It's a quattro. What do you have for character name and title? Because I have an idea.
Okay, well I have an idea, and it actually I was not quite sure. I thought I had something for this, and then we decided to bring up a little movie that Foxy Brown modeled a character towards, which was Foxy Cleopatra in Austin Powers 3, Goldmember. My favorite, whenever I see John Travolta, I think Goldmember John Travolta, where he plays in, what is it? It's at the end of the movie. He's Goldmember at the end of the movie when it turns back into like an action film on the screen. John Travolta is Goldmember at the end.
Okay. Let me throw something your way, Nick.
I'm here for it.
You usually have the deep cuts, so I'm quite proud of this one. This is going to be an animated movie, and it's a movie that I actually really, really enjoy. Do you recall the animated movie Bolt, where he plays a talking dog, and I believe it's Miley Cyrus is the human, and Bolt, the dog, is an acting dog, and he gets sent on this road trip journey, and he thinks he has superpowers because he plays a super dog in a TV show, but he's just a dog. Do you recall that one?
I remember the movie. I didn't I forgot that this
John
was
Travolta plays Bolt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think?
I'm
What do you
down with
think's gonna be
Bolt.
more rare here? His cameo in Goldmember or Bolt?
I mean, Goldmember, I feel like that's a pretty deep cut, but Bolt's great too. I'm up for either.
Let's try Bolt for the quiz, but then in a separate tab, let's see what Goldmember would have got us.
8%.
It's a single digi. I was expecting, hopefully, I was going for a little bit lower, but you know what? We take single digits over here. For fun, let's see what Goldmember would have got us.
3%.
Oh, damn it. No, I was so confident.
It's okay. That's a great poll.
I didn't think people were going to remember that one. And I thought maybe the Goldmember, my Schwinky turned gold, would have been a lot more memory lasting. But all right. Okay. A 5% difference. If we're top two, and if that screwed us up for top one, then I'll take the L. But anyway, let's move up to the last row of director Quentin Tarantino. Should be pretty easy.
I think so, yeah.
Release date, 95-2004. 2-word title, character name and title. So obviously, going down this list of movies, Django Unchained, that is a 2-word. It has the character name and the title. Pulp Fiction, 2-word title. Kill Bill, 2-word title, character name and title.
1 and 2. 2-word, I have Sin City.
Did he do Sin City?
Yeah, he did Sin City. Death Proof, which is the one that came out in that Grindhouse double feature. Remember that whole thing that he did?
Machete? Oh, no, that was, what's his nuts? Forgot his name. Not him.
The other guy who does stuff like that.
He does Boba Fett, yeah. Something Rodriguez. He did Spy Kids.
Yes, he did.
Robert Rodriguez.
Okay, back to Quentin Tarantino. Release date, 95-04. Either of the Kill Bills work here.
What was the other ones? You said Death Proof? When did that come out?
We were in high school. For Death Proof. So that was more
so
in like the 08 area. And Sin City teeters on like the 04, 05. And I'm not willing to risk it on that.
05, 06. So let's go with one of the Kill Bills here.
Yep, let's do it.
Volume 1 or 2?
Dealer's choice.
Let's go 1. Oh, it's very popular. 62%.
Yeah, very popular. Yeah, not too surprising.
On brand of that, we could do Kill Bill or Django Unchained for character name. Is there another one that we can think of?
I was trying to think. I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Okay.
I think Kill Bill's going to be less popular. Kill Bill Volume 2.
Let's go for it. We're looking at a 28%.
28, yeah.
30 is our ceiling of what you don't want to see, so we'll take it. And finally, 2-word title. We got
ton of options.
Reservoir Dogs.
Inglourious Bastards. I was thinking Death Proof would be a. We
could do Death Proof.
I think that would be a pretty a deeper cut.
I got Death Proof queued up.
All right, let's do it.
It is a 12%, and that's 9 out of 9. Perfect sweep of the board. Way to go. Nick, Justice, we are top 7% of players today. Single digit top score. I'll take it.
All right, let's go down and look at our most popular answers here. For Quentin Tarantino, 95-04, we had Kill Bill Volume 1. That's what we chose.
Yikes.
2-word title, Reservoir Dogs. And character name and title, Django was the most popular there.
Okay. So we made the good choice there. Moving down to, who was this?
Travolta.
Oh, John Travolta. Moving down to John Travolta, release date, most popular, Face Off with Nicolas Cage. 2-word title was Pulp Fiction. And character name and title was Michael. Just Michael. I'm assuming John Travolta plays Michael.
If he doesn't, I'd have questions. And then our gal, Pam Grier, 95-04, Jackie Brown, 2 words in title, Foxy Brown, and character name and title, Foxy Brown as well.
Uncreative, folks.
They don't know about the Pluto Nash.
All right, let's go with the rarest correct answer, starting with Quentin Tarantino, release date, 4 rooms. That looks like, what's that fool's name? Something Roth. He's the Abomination in The Incredible Hulk. 2-word title, Sin City.
Oh, wow.
Figured that was going to be the most popular, but I guess not. And character name and title, he directed Jackie Brown, starring Pam Grier. apparently.
I was wondering where the crossovers were for Pam Grier.
Yeah.
All right, for Travolta, for release date, we have Mad City. For two words in the title, we have Paradise City. It looks like him
Two
and
cities.
is that Bruce Willie?
This looks like a new movie, and yeah, that looks like old Bruce Willie and bald Travolta with beard, bald Travolta. So it looks new.
Huh. And then character name and title, Our Friend Martin. It looks like it's an animated movie about Martin Luther King Jr.
And there's a watch, and it says 1914. So they're on a skateboard. So to describe this to the audience, this looks like a very 90s cartoon because we have a blonde kid and a black kid both riding a lime green skateboard with yellow trucks and bright pink wheels with this very chalk graffiti kind of time vortex. And there's a watch. So they'd be time traveling back to, hopefully they're going back in time to save Martin Luther King Jr. Because that'd be sick. And apparently John Travolta was in that movie.
This is where I always say people cheat.
People cheat. Rounding out the quiz, Pam Grier, the most rare answers. Release date, 95-2004, 3 a.m. Never heard of it. Looks like Danny Glover's on the cover there. Danny Glover on the cover. 2-word title, The Vindicator. And a movie called, I remember this one, Bones with Snoop Dogg. I never saw it, but I just remember, I think it was a horror movie that Snoop Dogg did.
Well, that's funny because I have two completely different movies for 2-word title and character name.
What do you have? What do you have?
For two words in the title, I have Twilight People, which looks fucked up to say the least. And then character name and title, I have Sheba, baby. Looks like a blaxploitation sort of film.
Okay. 4 completely different movies. That's why it's so rare. That's why we had drastically different answers. But you know what, Nick? We went 9 for 9. We are perfect. We are on a 2 quiz streak. Let's go. Top 7%. I will take a perfect streak, a perfect sweep of the board, and a single digit top players of the day.
Single digi.
Well done. Which brings us to our movie because we are now warmed up. And like we said, we're watching the movie Bullet from 1996. This movie was directed by Julian Temple. And Nick, I couldn't really find much other projects that this person is affiliated with that I recognized. How about you?
No, I had nothing. I scrolled through. This did not make his career take off.
His top 4 is on IMDb known for is Crock of Gold from 2020, Vigo from 98, The Ecstasy of Wilco Johnson from 2015, and Earth Girls Are Easy, which is from 1988, and it looks like a super movie that we would watch on this podcast with Jeff Goldblum. Actually, Just Play It alum Gina Davis, Damon Wayans, and Jim Carrey. Never heard of that movie, but it's a 5.5 on IMDb.
Yeah, I'm looking down here. He directed a lot of music videos in the 80s for punk bands. Then
I saw
the Rolling
Depeche
Stones,
Mode on there. Yeah.
the Kinks, Billy Idol.
Let me just read you something from Variety real quick, because this movie is mysterious. The director's mysterious. It's full of very recognizable faces, but I couldn't really find a lot of information about this movie. I'll just read a little snippet from Variety, an article from April 5th, 1997, written by David Stratton. He says Julian Temple's Bullet is his first feature since Earth Girls Are Easy in 1988. That's a Jeff Goldblum one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grungy, downbeat, and uninvolving crime meller. I don't know what a meller is. With virtually nothing going for it. Shot in 1994 and bearing a 1995 copyright date, although it says 1996, so I'm kind of confused there. This dismal item, already on video shelves stateside, is getting a belated and limited theatrical release in Australia prior to what promises to be a desultory life in video bins, although fans of the late second build Tupac Shakur might check it out. Temple has failed to give any life, cohesion, or energy to a numbingly familiar tale of gang warfare in Brooklyn. A tired lead performance from Mickey Rourke is no asset. This guy's going for this movie's head. Did it not release? I guess it didn't release in the States because we don't have any box office information.
I couldn't find anything conclusive enough to share with the audience.
So the background is mysterious. The budget, the box office is, I guess, I don't know. I mean, there was a budget, but there was no box office to tell. However, this movie does have a pretty stacked roster here. Nick, who do we have in this movie?
So we have a friend of the show, Mickey Rourke. We have Adrian Brody. We have John Enos III, and we have Tupac Shakur.
Who's also a friend of the show. So Mickey Rourke is making a return from a movie we reviewed called Angel Heart. Tupac Shakur is making a return from a movie we reviewed called Juice. Two very good movies that we enjoyed. And we did drop a fun fact that they are really good friends. I can only imagine that they got together and said, hey, we should do a movie together. I've always seen the poster for this in my little inner circle growing up because we were all about gangster rap and like watching all the Tupac movies. I was really excited to check this out. And especially looking at this roster, you're thinking, oh, we got a hell of a project here. However, we'll see if that is the case because we're about to dive into this movie, read the log line, and jump into plot talk. Nick, our log line is paroled after 8 years in prison. Bullets picked up by his brother and a friend. Bullet assaults a drug dealer and 2 customers, period. Things escalate, period.
Things escalate. Okay.
I mean, I guess like pretty vague, but I guess that's what a logline is supposed to do, just keep you hanging.
It just describes
Things escalate.
the first 7 minutes of the film and then says things escalate. Like, oh, okay.
Get ready.
Okay, guy.
All right, well, with that, we're going to jump into some plot talk. Plot talk.
All right, so we get an opening of this movie. It's a flyover of some foliage, some trees. Looks like it's during
Upstate
the
New
fall. They're orange. It's beautiful. And we have this classical music playing. And then all of a sudden, that nature feeling with the classical music, we run right into a concrete jungle, a prison yard, outdoor gym, bunch of convicts, and we transition right into some hip hop.
Needle drops.
You know what you're getting into. This is Bullet, bitch.
We meet Butch, who is AKA Bullet in this movie. This is Mickey Rourke. And Mickey Rourke is super cool guy in prison because he is a white guy in a predominantly black incarcerated prison. And he's down with all the homies there. He's being released this day. And he also has this little pet rat that comes into play in the very beginning and at the very end. I don't know where this rat is the entire time otherwise, but not sure if there was some sort of symbolism they're trying to say there. But he gets picked up by our homies, Ruby and Lester. So this is Adrian Brody and John Enos III. And it's that classic, the rolling gates open. He walks out with his street clothes and they say, "Ah, you son of a bitch." They get in a car and Nick, they think they're from New York City and they're like, we got to go back to Brooklyn, but we got to roll back in pumping some jam. So we already got the classical music, which transitions into the gangster rap. And now we're going to learn what Bullet's favorite song is in this fucking movie. It's going to be Barry White's Never Gonna Give You Up.
It might be Just the Way You Are.
No, I'm telling you, they played this 3 times. They blew the budget on playing Barry White's Never Gonna Give You Up because they pumped this jam in this movie 3 times. So we're playing some sultry, sexy sex music, courtesy of Barry White, as we're rolling back into NYC. And right off the bat, Nick, we're just going straight back into a life of crime because Butch Bullet Stein is a fucking problem, dude.
Yeah, 8 years of being in prison didn't get him clean. He needs drugs, and he needs them now.
I was confused because they roll up and they're like, hey, there's these 2 kids. And they're like kind of like they look like suburban little white kids just trying to get some drugs. And basically, they just roll up in the car and they're like, fuck these guys. I don't like them. Butch he comes up to the car and he's like, the fuck you guys doing here? And they say, hey, chill out. And then full spits on these guys and says, don't tell me to chill out. I was like, you guys need to get out of this neighborhood, go back to school. You are not built for this. Leave. So they're going to rob them of their drugs, bring them up to a rooftop and have them stripped down naked.
The rooftop of like the crack project building. It's this whole thing. I think this scene is supposed to make you realize like, oh yeah, Bullet is not reformed. Bullet is out here ready to be problematic again. On his way out of the building, Bullet is stopped by Flacco, who confronts him, says, hey, you shouldn't be here. This is Tank's.
We saw this in New Jack City, drug dealing territories.
But I'll tell you what, as per his attitude this whole movie, Bullet does not give a fuck, and he stabs him in the eyeball.
Yeah, so 10 minutes in, I said, best fighter nominations looking pretty strong as Bullet stabs a guy through the eye with a switchblade.
Yeah.
Also, he is kind of racist.
No, he's pretty racist. He's pretty darn racist.
Because he says, tell that N-word tank Bullet's back. And Bullet's straight out of jail, and he's immediately looking for trouble.
He has a few racial slurs for Flacco as well, who is Hispanic. Italians aren't safe. They take some strays later on in the movie. So
no one's safe. It was the 90s.
The funny thing is that Butch and his family are super Jewish. It was like, I think if anyone knows about some persecution, it's you guys. So I wouldn't do that.
Before we go back to the family, we got to do some drugs. So this is like hour 2 of getting out of prison. After 8 years, he fucks up some guys, stabs a guy in the eye, and immediately does heroin in the car. Just wraps his arm, shoots it up, and then what's back, Nick? Our favorite song of this movie, Barry White's "Never Give Up."
There's a lot of heroin. There's a lot of drugs in this movie, and there's a lot of these drug montages. I hate these, by the way.
They're pretty lazy.
Every time they do drugs, there's just there's fade in, fade outs. Fade in of a train going across the tracks, and then they fade out, and it's like distorted view.
What's great about this movie, Nick? I was gonna say, I had a question. Oh, did they do this thing where they just warp the image and kind of like do that? But the great part about it is I could just check it in real time because this movie is just available on this website that's simply called archive.org, which is how I watched this movie in 480p.
It was choppy.
I can see here in the drug montage, they are warping the images and it's all tilted cameras, the Dutch tilt, as we learned from Battlefield Earth. Blue filters on, just kind of your cookie cutter drug doing scene.
It happens a lot. And there's so much fading in and out in this movie. I wrote down at a certain point, stop fading shot to shot. It was so distracting at a certain point.
Just like doing drugs and playing Barry White, they can't stop, Nick. So you're going to have to fucking deal with it because this is Bullet, baby. And he's back in Brooklyn.
Well, you know who does want him to stop? His parents. So Ruby and Bullet go back to his parents' house, and he has another brother, Lewis, we'll meet here in a second. But his parents are all disappointed in him. And he plays the victim on this, like, oh, Dad, I don't want to get a job. His dad's like, I got you a job. Please take this job.
And his dad is super New Yorkin over here. He's bragging like, I could get you a job that's $9 an hour. He's already getting on his 35-year-old son's ass the day he got out of prison about getting a job. He just got home. He's like, why don't you get a job? It's like, I get where he's coming from, but he literally just got home. I understand he's disappointed, and he has every right to be. And the fact that Bullet just stabbed somebody and shot up heroin and then got home, he does deserve that talk. But I thought it was funny. He just immediately gets home, and Dad's like, get a job. You messed up your baseball scholarships. I'm New Yorkin over here. And then he's like, hey, wife, make me a martini. And this home looks very like dated 90s brown and reds, and just the vibe is off. And Dad's disappointed in his 3 whack job sons and yells at his wife to make him a martini. And I just wrote down sad, period.
Yeah, it was. I will say I defend the dad here because it sounded more like, hey, I have a job opening. I can get you this job. Will you please take this job? Like, can we get you clean, kid? Because his kids are sitting there high off their balls on heroin. He's like, what? Come on. They rely on a lot of these movie tropes almost where they're not going to develop the dad's character. They just show him drinking a martini.
Hey, coming to my house. Where's the job? Oh.
Yeah, they go, yeah, it's stereotypical dad. Audiences will get it. Like, I don't know about this one.
Well, you know what's not stereotypical? The fucking crazy ass brother Lewis coming in hot. This is Ted Levine, friend of the show, via Flubber. He was one of the goons in Flubber alongside Clancy Brown. Been in a lot of projects, been in this one, and he's a goddamn wild card. He's the wild card of this movie. He might be the wild card character of the year, honestly. You don't know what this guy's gonna do. Because he's a Vietnam vet, and he's essentially gone crazy.
Yeah, he's nuts.
And still lives with his parents. He looks significantly older than Bullet. So I'm like, are you 40 and nuts?
It might be because in '96, and in '96, if you're a Vietnam vet, yeah, you'd probably be closer to 40s. But yeah, we find out later he's like a doomsday prepper. He's trying to prepare an army. He's a nut job. He spies on people, has all these spy gadgets, all these crazy weapons. He's just insane. So we have a terrible trio of brothers.
Yes, we do. And now we're going to go meet Tupac. He is Tank. And I wasn't like, I mean, by the end of this movie, I was disappointed. But I was disappointed because from the posters and I knew about their friendship, I really thought this was going to be a buddy crime drama or crime thriller or dirty cop, buddy crime cop Tupac Rourke show. But no, they're enemies. And we don't get to meet Tupac until maybe half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. It's he doesn't have a lot on screen time, but they made a point to feature him on the poster.
Not a lot of on screen time, not a lot of character development. He has some background stuff that sounds pretty interesting that never gets developed.
One of them being,
yeah, Bullet. So the first thing you notice about Tank is that he wears an eye patch. He has one eye.
So he's a pirate.
We end up finding out that the reason he has one eye is because of Bullet, but we still don't know what happened, which would have been the more interesting story around here.
I see you had this question later. Do you want me to tell you what I found out?
Yeah.
So apparently, and this is according to the plot from Wikipedia, Wikipedia says Tank is a local drug kingpin with a score to settle after Bullet stabbed him in the eye while they were serving time together. So did he say that at any point? Because I don't recall.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Later on in the movie, Tank says, I knew I should have murdered that mother effer 3 years ago when we were up north. So that's the only allusion that they were in prison together. But I didn't know if that was just added as an inside fact from the filmmakers, because I do not recall them ever stating that Bullet stabbed Tank in the eye. I mean, we saw him do that with Flacco, but I guess that's just his signature move.
I wish I knew. I have no idea. Again, would have been a great character development. We don't get that. So he wants Bush dead. He commissions his boy Patty to do something about it. And Patty is played by Matthew Powers.
Okay, so Matthew Powers, I thought he was related to Mickey Rourke because he looked pretty goddamn similar, didn't he?
There were a lot of times when one, like Patty would come on screen and I would think to myself, oh, that's Bullet. And it wasn't Bullet.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it was a weird choice.
It was throwing me off.
He looked like a mix between Mickey Rourke and what's his name from Memento when he had his bleached hair.
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce in Memento. That's what he looked like, a cross between.
Yeah, 100%.
In the meantime, our crew of Ruby, I don't think we've necessarily shouted out his boy Lester. This is John Enos the third. He's part of the crew. He's this suave dude, wears jackets with no shirt underneath. That's his vibe. And he's just down to clown with Bullet, with, do drugs, commit crime. He's into it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just sort of around. So Lester, Bullet, and Ruby end up going out to this Spanish nightclub. And this super hot chick just walks up to Bullet and like, hey, are we going to bang and dance, or like what's going on?
Well, Bullet looks at his brother Ruby and says, 8 years and I haven't busted a nut. I'm going to bang this chick. I thought, okay, he hasn't busted a nut because he's been in prison for 8 years. No, we'll learn later in the next scene that his dick doesn't work.
His dick just don't work. Yeah, so there, I think it's
and I assume it's because of all the heroin.
Yeah, I would have to guess it's the heroin. So they go back to her place and you think they bang, they didn't bang. He has performance issues. Nothing ever comes of this scene.
That is the end of that storyline. That's the end of that storyline. His dick doesn't work, and that's it. Moving on. What does Butch do because his dick don't work? He does drugs. Then we get another kind of just boring ass drug doing scene where it's a montage. It seems like he's daydreaming of prison, and it seems like he's missing his prison friends. But I gotta say, Mickey Rourke is hella cut in this movie.
Jack,
he's in great shape. Yeah.
Jack.
This is right in between his angel heart and his weird plastic surgery stage.
And his real life drug use.
It's kind of method acting. Crystal method acting. I got him.
What if Bullet's the thing that brought down Mickey Rourke's mid-prime career?
I won't put it past it.
We cut around a lot to characters. So we have this other scene we cut to. Ruby and Lewis are interacting. Lewis is warning Ruby about Butch being trouble. He's stolen from a lot of people in the family. Lewis understands that he's an insane person. Like, he gets it. But he's self-aware and says, hey, I'm not the crazy person.
I might be crazy, but Bullet's the fuck up of the family, which
Yeah.
is hilarious.
Now, if you think Lewis is crazy now, wait till this next scene when he starts raising a child army.
Oh my God. This was so goddamn funny to me. He's at this abandoned warehouse and he's teaching kids how to murder people and he's yelling at them while pointing a giant knife in their face. This is another, I guess it's not a storyline. It's just a character development of how crazy Lewis is, but he's just instructing 4 kids how to murder people. And he's like a pseudo drill sergeant, just living out his glory days of being in the Vietnam War.
Yeah, he almost wants to be back. He tells his family, I joined a militia group and I'm going back over to the jungle. And he basically went nuts in Vietnam and doesn't know how to cope with real life, is where we're at with this.
And then we jump over to Tank in his limo. He's always rolling around in his limo with the license plate that says Tank. And there's always a big plate of fruit.
A big spread. Yeah,
there's some
munching.
charcuterie fruit plate in his fucking limo. And I gotta say here, actually, I want to call this out. At the 34-minute mark, we get the return of the Kangol. And what is that? That is that signature hip hop 90s hat that was featured heavily in a movie we watched called New Jack City. The Kangol's back. Tupac's rocking a white Kangol.
So Tank's plan here, and apparently he does this a lot. Apparently this is something he does. He hands this goon a bindle of heroin that is wrapped up in a red rubber band, and that red rubber band is poison heroin.
It's just a mark that it's the poison. It's the laced bag. So he's like, hey, give the one with the red rubber band to Bullet. This is the one that's laced with some sort of lethal chemical or something. So that's the plan to take down Bullet via Tank. However, we get Lester in his pink Cadillac. And what song is he bumping here, Nick?
I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt by Right Said Fred.
Never knew who performed that song until you wrote it down in the notes here. Never knew that.
I didn't even have to look it up. I knew that.
All right. So this is Lester. He's very good looking, very in shape, wears a lot of tight clothing, as you said, dresses sharp, and rolls up in a pink caddy. And we're like, okay, this guy is a character. And Bullet is all hardened, wears a beanie all the time, hoodie, kind of just like fuckless with his outfit and his demeanor. He gets in the car. He tosses out the I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt cassette tape and says, let's put on some real music. What song does he put on, Nick? Never,
it's also Barry White.
Well, it always starts out with that Barry White, like, I was like, what is
this the only song that played in prison?
I don't get it. Is he racist? Well, he had a lot of black friends in prison and he loves Barry White, but he throws out the N-word a lot. So I'm just confused.
And it's a hard R. He throws out the hard R quite a bit. It's not like he's just popping the N-word like casually in conversation. We're talking, it's directed at somebody with a hard R.
I have something to bring up near the end of the movie that will throw a whole conspiracy into the mix.
So we need some money to get picked up in this Cadillac. And we make this random stop at a carnival. And the only reason I wrote this down is because we have a Peter Dinklage sighting.
Okay.
Who is a carnival worker.
So this was insane. So this is actually Peter Dinklage's third acting credit. He goes uncredited in this movie, but I thought it was wild because we already had Adrian Brody in a very young role. We already kind of knew who Mickey Rourke was at this point. Tupac is a high profile name. Ted Levine is a name that you and I know. And then we get a Peter Dinklage cameo. I was fucking ripping out over here. I thought that was so cool.
It was. I was not expecting it.
He plays a character called Building Manager,
who ends up chasing him off as they're yelling like, "Ah, fuck off, you short midget.
Bullet's like, why don't you go to Yellow Brick Road or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, a little bit of a dick, but
All right, there we go.
I'll do my guy Dinklage like that.
So we really have three. I'll say three states in this movie. Our character has three states. State one is doing heroin. Step two is being high on heroin and committing crimes. And step three is procuring heroin. We're always doing one of those three things. We're committing crimes to get money to buy more heroin. Well, right now, we robbed the carnival. So that was committing crime to get money for heroin. And now we're
I thought they just picked up Ruby. Because Ruby was like commissioned to do a painting on the carnival. And then they just said, hey, Ruby, get in the car. And then Peter Dinklage said, no, I swear, I'll pull it up.
I believe you. I just always assume that they're committing crime to get heroin money.
No, they just pick up Ruby because he's like doing a painting on their building. And then he's like, hey, wait a second. What's on Peter Dinklage's shirt here? It says free Mike. Is that Mike Tyson?
Wait, what?
Wait, pull this up. Tell me what's going on here.
Give me the timestamp.
3510. Wait a second. Maybe this is Mike Tyson.
That is 100% Mike Tyson on his shirt.
What?
There's no question about it.
Yeah, I looked up Mike Tyson prison, and then on Wikipedia it says in 1992, Tyson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 6 years in prison. He was released on parole after 3 years. After his release in 1995, he engaged in a series of comeback fights, blah, 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 blah. So like I said with that Variety article, this was shot in 1994 and I think was supposed to come out in 95. So that would be on topic. I just noticed that. That's so weird. Okay, Peter Dinklage, the building manager, is a huge Mike Tyson fan. Anyway, the Dink is mad that they're stealing Ruby from his job site, who's doing some sort of mural. Ruby is an artist. He's like a graffiti artist or a painter. And he's like, like you said, Nick, a lot of tropes in this movie. He has the trope of being the promising young artist who's getting mixed up in bad crowds because of his older brothers. So they swoop up Ruby, and guess what? They're going to go pull some hood rat shit at this heroin house. So they go to this sketch-ass place to score some more heroin.
But as soon as they do that, we have some crazy robbers who are going to show up to this heroin house and stick the place up. And they actually end up stealing the poison crack from Bullet. Now, I highlighted this. The robbers, I don't know if they're related. I would assume they are in some way. But the robbers are Mick O'Rourke and Joey Rourke. Those are the actors.
Saw these names in the credits, and I initially saw Mick O'Rourke. It rolled up first, and I thought, is that a tongue-in-cheek stage name? Like maybe he was Mickey Rourke's stunt double or stand-in, and he says, I go by Mick O'Rourke. But then I saw Joey Rourke, and I thought, maybe they're just part of the Rourke fam.
Yeah. Mick O'Rourke and Joey Rourke are robbers, but they do steal the heroin. As they're getting out of the building, Ruby sees this happening because he's the getaway guy. He's in the car, and he's in the pink Cadillac, and he decides, instead of just letting this all happen, he's going to gas, and hit one of these guys in the car, shattering the pink Cadillac's windshield, by the way. Completely unavoidable. But here we are.
After he hits him, he gets out of the car and is all shocked and like, I'm so sorry. Oh, God. Oh. And then a homeboy in the Celtics jacket is like, oh, fuck this guy. And then Brody's like, oh, he's like cowering and like putting his arms up. I was like, why'd you get out of the car? That was your best weapon. The scene looked really lame and it looked very avoidable because there was no need to get out of the car. Adrian Brody's acting is actually pretty bad in this scene. And I don't know if I want to blame it on the acting or the direction or the editing, but it all just felt very choppy and avoidable and like a piss poor excuse to have the Celtics jacket guy stab his hand.
Yeah.
And they make it a point to say, my painting hand. And you're like, okay.
These guys with guns, Ruby gets out of the car, puts his hands up, and this guy just... Was it a knife? It almost looked like a
switchblade. Yeah, it was like a knife.
It almost looked like a railroad stake, like just a spike this guy had in his back pocket, just
in this jacket.
So that happens. Back home, we have Butch listening to his music in his room, like an angsty teenager. All of a sudden, gets very mad, picks up a baseball bat because he threw away his life on his threw away the baseball scholarships because he was such a promising baseball player, and just decides to smash up his room. Again, why his parents are not okay with him. This is their house. This isn't even your house. You're just going through and smashing shit. Problem.
So going to the stolen heroin, Patty, who is our fake Mickey Rourke / Guy Pearce, and his goons, they're Irish or Italian?
I think Irish.
Yeah, I think they're Irish because Tank makes it a point when he kicks him out of the limo. He says, "Top of the morning to you." We're like, okay, they're Irish. So they go to the heroin hut, the heroin house, and there's this just super dead dude that is head against the table. He drew the short straw and got the lethal heroin, and he's dead.
He's been dead for like a couple days, maybe at this point.
Patty comes in and he's talking to like the manager of the heroin house. And when I say heroin house, it's like this very exposed wall, outdoor 3-story structure where people just go over to get high. Someone's getting like a blowy in the side room. And this dead guy is super dead. So they say, let's get him out of here. And they just chuck this man off the 3rd story and he just lands on the sidewalk. And I guess that's that.
No questions asked.
Why would there be?
So back home, we're going back to our phases, right? We're done being high, and now we got to get into our commit crimes to get money to go get high again. So what we're going to do is we're going to rob the neighbor's house while they are out of town. We're starting to get these intercuts of Butch's POV all like fucked up and fuzzy and distorted, but it just comes in randomly into the movie. It's not consistent, so it's a little weird. I don't get it.
I want to say there's actually a pretty, like, I don't want to call it homoerotic, but it seemed like there was sexual tension between Lester and Rourke, because this is when Lester is getting undressed in front of him and he's in super tight underwear and they're both kind of shirtless and very cut. And I thought, are they going to do it right now? Oh, I think it's when they're robbing this place. They're robbing the neighbor's house. Aren't they hanging out on the bed? And Lester, I think he's doing that 90s girl sleepover pose where he's laying on his stomach and he has his feet up and crossed. Like, I'll call it the "no, you hang up" pose. It was either the bedroom scene where they were plotting the crime or mid-crime, but I thought, are they gonna do sex?
Are they gonna bang?
I thought it was coming.
Might have made the movie a little more interesting. Well, while they're robbing this house, Lewis is out walking his dog, and the cops roll up on Lewis and start fucking with him a little bit because he's a crazy person. And Lewis knows better. He just doesn't cause any attention. He actually knows that Lester and Bullet are in the house because he has spy equipment everywhere, so he knows everybody's plans. He has microphones all over the house.
He's listened to tapped microphones. Yeah, he's got fulls wired. He's got the house bugged.
Yeah. Now, I will say this is the halfway point of the movie, and I still don't have no idea what the driving conflict is of this film. Bullet and Lester are in the house like, oh my gosh, the cops are outside talking to your brother. It's like, just stay below the window. There's no reason for anybody to go near this house that people are not in. Like, why are you even like looking out the window? They're like opening the blinds, looking through it. Like, wait, why?
He's putting his face directly up to the glass, and Lewis is taking note of this. He's looking over his shoulder up to the house. And if I was the cop, I would say, what are you looking at?
Lester and Bullet do have this conversation that I absolutely hated. Lester's talking about, oh, I could go to jail. I could survive in jail. Bullet hits him with this, you don't want to go to jail, Lester. It ain't a pretty place. If you don't want him to go to jail, then why the fuck are you involving him in all of this crime? Every time that like you turn around, if you don't want this guy to go to jail, if you say, no, I don't want you going to jail, Lester, then stop forcing. The first scene, he like forces him to do heroin with him. They're robbing this house. All he's doing is getting this guy involved in crime. He says the same thing to his little brother, Ruby, about, oh, he has so much potential. Well, stop having him drive you to heroin houses. What are we doing?
Heroin huts. Yeah.
It's like they're trying to paint Bullet as maybe a goodish guy, good intentions, cares about the people around him, but it just falls so flat because all he's doing is ruining everyone's life around him. Like Lester looked like he was doing all right without Bullet there. Had his life together. He has a pink Cadillac. He's jacked. He's got nice clothes. He's doing his thing. And Bullet shows up, and all of a sudden, he's a heroin junkie again.
He's just doing heroin.
Bullet's not good for people.
Yeah.
But they do steal a bunch of shit. They think $25,000 to $30,000 worth of jewelry, which in 1996 is a lot of jewelry. Lewis does confront them about it, basically letting them know he knows everything because he has the whole house bugged. And then Ruby's been painting a mural all night on the side of a building.
Which apparently he wasn't. He was commissioned for the carnival one, but not for this one because the cops roll up and say, "Hey, what are you doing up there?" And it's a very on the nose visual of what is happening because I think it's a hand coming from the heavens, dropping a bag of heroin.
Yeah.
And the hand receiving it is a skeleton hand.
It's like
and there's like money in there.
The God in Adam picture, the famous Greek
the creation of light. Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's like that, except there's a heroin exchange involved. Mm-hmm. And the person receiving the heroin is a skeleton arm. And we're like, okay. Symbolism. So anyway, we don't have time for that. Ruby's not going to get arrested. He's going to make a quick pickle getaway. And we're going to hit up the batting cages at Coney Island. And Nick, why is Coney Island always deserted and creepy in movies? We actually saw this in Angel Heart, another Mickey Rourke film.
Yeah, it's just...
I have seen it be vibrant and lively, and that is in the Spike Lee movie, He Got Game, where Ray Allen takes Rosario Dawson on a date to Coney Island, and they actually go on the Ferris wheel. But in almost 90% of movies, Coney Island, fair, boardwalk, I don't know what you call it, just Coney Island, it's always deserted and creepy. Always. There's always never anybody there.
It's not a place to be, it's not a place people should be hanging out.
But what happens here at this scene?
All right, so this dude, I don't know what's happening in this scene. So Butch is taking swings at the batting cages. Lester shows up, just knows where he is. Lester comes, takes some batting practice, and Bullet looks at him and says, and I swear he says this about 5 times, "You know I'm always going to be honest with you, right? Because I tell the truth. It's what I do." I was just like, yeah. Bullet goes, because I'm a straight shooter. I'm always going to tell it like it is. Lester's like, yeah, I know. Bullet says, and I just want you to know the truth. I'm not going to hold back. If I want to say something, I'm going to say it. Lester's like, all right, dude. Like, what do you got to say? And Butch says, yeah, all this stuff you talk about, banging women and loving women. He goes, I think you hate women and you're a homo. and
yeah. So, well, it kind of sparks because our guy Lester, he's talking mad shit on this character named Frankie Eyelashes, which I think is who they sold the jewelry to.
Yeah, the Italian. He's
being kind of catty, and he's saying, yeah, Frankie Eyelashes, he wears all this Maybelline makeup, and he's not attractive. He's not more attractive than me. The ladies don't love him. The ladies love me. I don't think he's attractive. And this is where Bullet gives him the straight shooter intro to what he's about to say. And he's like, you're gay.
I'm pretty sure you're gay. But it gets weirder than that.
I have a big problem with his reasoning because he says, it's because your grandma raised you. And I was like, it's not how it works.
He's like, yeah, your dad left.
It's like your dad left, your mom left, you're raised by your grandma, so then you turn gay.
But then it goes further because Lester's not super offended by it. He's like, whoa, what are you talking about? I don't like. He's
like, you're saying I suck dick, and then Butch hits me with the craziest line in this movie. He says, you don't. he says you don't have to suck dick to be a queer.
What the fuck is happening here?
Yo, this movie's out of pocket right now.
And then it goes a step further, and Lester's like, what? And Bullet goes, oh, come on. You tell me you never seen a hot guy and you didn't think about it.
That's why I thought they were going to do it.
I thought they were going to go be gay together.
That's why I got that sexual tension in the earlier scene. I thought, are they gay? If they were mutually gay, that would have been way more interesting. But no, Butch is just like, you're gay.
The way he says, you tell me you never thought about it was super provocative. It wasn't him accusing him of thinking about it.
We're at empty Coney Island. There's an empty hot dog stand over there.
He says, yeah, man, you're telling me telling me you never seen a guy and, I don't know, maybe
I've been working out, Lester.
thought about
Come on.
it.
That's the end of that storyline.
Yeah.
No resolution
So for
to
the
that.
folks who have a question, is that going to come into play later? It shan't.
This was the most interested I was in to the characters. And I thought, oh, yeah, let's go. Like, what do we got cooking here?
Character
Nothing.
development. No.
Back to Crazy Lewis. So we get a scene with him and the mom in the kitchen. And he's looking at this military surplus magazine type thing, I think. He's looking at some sick weapons. And Nick, I have an Easter egg here. Did you catch this?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Easter egg at minute 59, 19 seconds, we have an Indiana Jones cameo. We have a picture of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones in the military magazine, and it's a picture of him with his hat. So they're advertising an authentic Indiana Jones hat for sale, $22.50 postpaid for an authentic Indiana Jones hat. And I thought, wow, how on brand for our franchise of the year and the movie we reviewed last time.
I like it. Nice catch.
Lewis doesn't want the hat. He wants a stun gun. And he asked his mom for $60 for the stun gun. He's 40 years old. He's like, Mom, can I get $60 for the stun gun? And he's wearing tidy whities. And she says, no, I don't have the money for it. He flips out.
Tantrum.
He is all upset that Bullet is back and he's the big fuck up. And he's like, my heart's in the right place. All I'm asking for is a stun gun. And then he says he's going to go to Lebanon and chop up some Arabs, quote unquote, right now. And I thought, geez, someone put Lewis on a watch list.
This poor mom. She didn't ask for any of this.
And the mom was like, okay, Jesus, I'll get you the stun gun.
Also the end of that storyline.
And that's the end of that scene.
Stun gun never arrives. So now we have Bullet and Lester. They're going to go and off all this stolen stuff, right? So they're going to take it to Mr. Frankie Eyelashes. And Frankie Eyelashes runs himself, looks like to be a pretty upscale business. Wears his suit, little mafia-like. He's Italian.
Oh.
He gives Bullet this talk saying, no one's going to take you seriously. You're constantly wearing a tracksuit and a beanie. And you look like shit. You got track marks all up in your arm. You're clearly always on heroin. And this does not affect Bullet in the slightest. At no point does Bullet want to change his ways, turn his life around. Again, he wants to be in one of his three phases of acquiring heroin, getting money for heroin, or being high on heroin.
Along those phases, we're going to go check in with our homeboy Patty. And we're also going to meet Big Balls. Yes, Nick, I said Big Balls. Who plays Big Balls? It's Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah, if there's a gangster thug movie, there has to be a Wahlberg involved.
So we learned that Bullet actually went to prison in lieu of Patty. It was because of Patty. I think he said he robbed somebody and Butch took the fall for it. But they were in cahoots with Tank because Tank has beef with Bullet and Tank was trying to pin the rival gangs against Bullet. So Patty reconvenes with Bullet and says, hey, Tank's trying to kill you. So we got to kill him. And this is where we finally get Tank and Bullet in the same scene together. This is an hour and 7 minutes into this movie.
We have Lester, Bullet, and Ruby all hanging out in this parking lot area, like a fenced-in lot area, up to no good. And Tank comes rolling up with his crews. We find out that Tank wants to kill Bullet, but he wants it to be slow. So we're going to have a fist fight. But Tank's not going to do it himself. He's going to bring in his big brawler, and we got a fist fight to get into.
He also drops another hard R N-word to Tank in this scene. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, you're pretty racist.
Yeah, he's not helping his case here.
We got the street brawl. It's going down. Bullet throws a dick punch on the Tank goon. We have a surprise guest watching this fight. It's Lewis, the crazy brother. He's just watching behind a fence. It ends in a draw, I guess you would say.
Yeah, the goon breaks his hand punching Bullet in the face. I kind of knew this was going to be the case. It was telegraphed as one of those fights where Bullet can just wear punches because he's
built different and no one knows what to say about it.
Yeah.
And I think we get this close-up of Lewis from behind the fence, and he says this line, men love to hate. That's what separates us from females. So there's that. No idea what this meant. Not sure what it had to do with the storyline or any kind of themes. Actually, now thinking about it, there hasn't been one female voice in this movie.
Just the mom.
And I'm not talking about speaking lines. Yeah, I got the mom, I guess,
but she's got nothing.
It's a heavy sausage fest going on here. I'll say that. Speaking of the mom, we're going to go reconcile with her. Bullet is going to do the classic hanging out in the backyard. Is he on the porch or is he on some swings? Oh, I got the movie right here. I'll just pull it up. Thanks to archive.org. He's on the childhood swings. I knew it. So we get this whole reconcile scene with the mom. Butch essentially hates himself for not being there for Lewis. Butch says that he wants to see Ruby succeed and that he's special and he has a talent. And then we end on a close-up of Lewis sharpening this giant ass knife. And we cut away.
Boom.
And we cut exactly to Tupac at a trattoria, just straight up forking a whole plate of oysters on the half shell. This is not how you eat oysters, Tank. Maybe Patty will show you how, because he waltzes on into the restaurant.
He does. We have a bit of a confrontation, verbal, and that's going to turn into a shootout. And James, I think this shootout had to be about 60% of the budget. I don't know what the budget was, but they definitely...
I'll rebuttal on that, because they spent so much money on Barry White's Never Gonna Give You Up being played in this fucking movie 3 times.
That's true. But we have a full shootout, and the shootout ends when Tank grabs a little girl as a hostage.
Yeah, I want to call out a couple things here. We can't not shout out Michael Kenneth Williams, who plays High Top. This is his feature film debut, and he went on to be super successful with a run in The Wire. And Nick, a personal favorite of yours, a featured character in R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet.
Sure is.
So he gets murked in this scene. Tank takes a little girl as a hostage, so he pulls a Nino Brown, because this is the exact same move we saw Wesley Snipes' character do in New Jack City, using her as a human shield. Also, Donnie Wahlberg, Big Balls. He's living up to his name because he makes a Big Balls proclamation. He says, "I got this motherfucker." And he's pointing a gun at Tank. All the while Patty is literally in between them, pointing a gun point blank at Tank's head. And Donnie Big Balls is like, I got this guy. I got him lined up. It's like, my guy, your boss is literally in front of you.
He's got big balls.
Point blank with the gun on Tank. But Donnie Big Balls has got some big balls confidence.
I have a big problem with this scene. Tank is going to hold this little girl, and I think he says, "Children are the future." What would stop these crazy heroin dealers from not just capping this little girl? There's no leverage there. I think it's a cop-out of a scene to make the scene stop. Oh, he's a little girl hostage. Big Balls and Patty, I don't know why they'd give a fuck.
Small balls. Well, we're going to cut to Lester and Butch at the disco. And Lester, being called gay in the previous scene, he's like, "I'll show you, audience. I'm going to hook up with 2 chicks."
Well, I have yeah, it's weird. So he had this, what it looked like to be a gay revelation, like a coming out moment.
Party.
And then the next time we see him, he's in this nightclub dancing with these 2 chicks. And then when we skip forward 10 minutes, he's just having a threesome. He's banging them in a closet of this nightclub.
Yeah, they're banging in they're banging in the back kitchen bar or something.
Yeah, and it's a pretty graphic sex scene. Okay. I think this is also the last time we see Lester in the movie.
Lester took that gay comment personally and said, "I'll show you, Bullet.
I'm going to bang some chicks." But
this is the last place we leave Lester.
We do see him at the funeral. But for this scene, yeah. This is the last
climax.
For the climax,
this is what he's doing.
He's not there.
Speaking of the climax, leading up to that, we cut away to Tank in his signature limo. We got a limo ride. It's revealed that Butch took Tank's eye, and like we said, apparently he stabbed him while he was in prison. However, during the scene, he's talking to his friend Pudgy. Nick, shout out. At this point in the movie, I finally recognize this fool. This is actually our boy Steele from Juice. This is Jermaine Hopkins. It took me a minute. I didn't recognize him at the weird parking lot fight scene, but I recognized him in the limo. Yeah, Steele, via Juice, who starred alongside Tupac in that movie, is Pudgy. Tank is talking to Pudgy, And Pudgy's arguing with Tank about how he's toying with Bullet. Why doesn't he just kill him? And this is, okay, here comes my conspiracy. So Tank says, Bullet is mine. We got a destiny. And then Pudgy's like, what do you mean a destiny? And then Tank says, it's a black thing. You won't understand.
Bullet is mine. Man, that motherfucker got a destiny.
What destiny?
It's a black thing, baby. You wouldn't understand.
So I'm like, hold the phone. Hold on. Jermaine Hopkins is black. Tupac is black. Mickey Rourke is white. Is Mickey Rourke actually black? Are we perceiving him as a white guy? Does he have Michael Jackson disease? Is that why he can drop the N-word? What is going on? Is Pudgy not black? This line confused the hell out of me. I don't know if you caught that, but if you did, if you didn't, what is your thoughts on that?
I don't understand him saying it's a black thing you wouldn't understand to another black guy.
That's what I'm saying. So are we experiencing some sort of mind-bending Inception moment where we are perceiving characters as the wrong race?
That'd be a lot more interesting of a concept.
Well, no time to deep dive that because we're jumping into the bathroom of the club. So we got Butch, Bullet in the bathroom. And guess what? Naked boys are going to come and confront him. These are the two weebs that they made strip down naked, the suburban kids. They confront him in the bathroom and they're going to try and stab him. I think this is another Switchblade appearance. Nick, I see you wrote down here, this is the worst stabbing attempt I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. The one guy comes at him just flailing his arms with the knife in his hand. And Mickey Rourke takes down each guy, each with one hand. He just
easily disarms them.
Grabs them and throws them. It was weird. It was a weird scene.
And then he shows him his needle tracks and says they ain't built for this.
Yeah, he says, you don't want none of this stuff, man.
Tank gets inside knowledge that Bullet is at the club. So they head that way to the nightclub. And we're going to get our final showdown here.
Yeah.
I forget how they get to the back.
I think Patty comes and grabs him.
You know better than me. You watched it twice. Oh, here's the Lester sex scene. He's just busting a nut. Jeez, they're really focusing on. Okay, he pulls up to the club. It looks like they sneak out of the back. And Patty's like, we got to go. And he's on the fence. And then Butch says, you go without me. I got a score to settle.
Patty does give him his gun. Says, at least take this. Bullet tosses the gun down in front of Tank and says, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to shoot you. And Tank's pretty intent on blasting away Bullet with a shotgun. Ruby runs out of the nightclub and tries to stop him. No, that's my brother. That's my brother. And now you have Ruby caught up in this. So now Bullet has to convince Tank to let Ruby go. Tank says no. He's going to watch his brother die. So I'm expecting some sort of climax here, some emotional payoff, maybe a fight, maybe Ruby's finally going to man up and take someone out. But no, Tank just smokes Bullet with a shotgun, blasts him back into the fence, laughs, yeets off into his car, and then it sounds like he rolls the window down and audibly laughs again as he rides off. It's like a 12-year-old in Fortnite who's like doing the donkey laugh at you.
Yeah,
as he rides
he
off.
100% does that because he gets back in the car and goes, ha, 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 ha. And then the moment passes. And then we're with Ruby holding Butch in his arms. And then we hear in the background, ha, ha, ha. It's like, no! What? Why are we emoting on this kid?
He definitely savors the moment.
Does he stick his head out the window? Does he stick his head out of the window again?
Down. I think he does. Bullet dies in Ruby's arms.
Funeral time.
Super Jewish funeral. I forget half the time that these guys are Jewish. It doesn't come up other than the tattoos, the necklace. At no point do they go to temple and observe the Sabbath or something that would have made faith important in this movie. We choose not to do that.
Nothing.
No. Frankie Eyelashes does end up giving the money from the stolen goods to Ruby. Says, your brother wanted you to have this as his, kind of get out of the hood money. Again, going back to trying to make Bullet a good guy of some sorts when that's not at all what it is. We do leave the cemetery with a zoom out, and we're over it, and we see the trees, and we get the classical music. So we're ending the movie in the same fashion we started the movie. I'm not sure if that's significant, but that's not the end of the movie. James?
So, okay. So Lewis, like I said, the goddamn wild card of the year. I thought we were going to get I actually wrote down in my notes in real time. I said, is Lewis not going to pull up to the final scene with that super gun that he showed us earlier in the movie, or the knife he was sharpening? No, we get nothing. But I was wrong. Tank he got dropped off by just a random driver. Maybe it was the limo. And he looks like he's kind of wobbling up, maybe a night out drinking. He's taking out his keys to open up this door, and Lewis, Vietnam vet, rappels down from the ceiling and just slits his throat with that giant ass knife that we saw him sharpening in the mom and Butch reconcile scene. And Tank is murdered via Lewis. Remember that rat I brought up in the beginning? He places the prison rat on Tank.
I think he says payback's a bitch or something like that.
Payback as a motherfucker is what Ted Levine says.
Payback's a motherfucker.
And I think he puts the rat down on him to. Is the rat supposed to consume all of Tank's body?
Is that him cleaning the evidence?
We don't know, but that is Bullet from 1996. We hit credits, directed by Julian Temple. Nick, do you have any nitpicks?
Nitpicks.
I do. One is a movie-making nitpick. Where did Ruby go the second half of the movie? Did you notice how he was involved in every outing until he ended up doing that symbolic mural? And then we didn't see him for about 30 to 35 minutes until we get to the fight scene. Where'd he go?
I mean, that ties into the nitpick I have, is all of the unresolved storylines. There's so many things that start. Some are cookie cutter, some are genuinely interesting, and they hit us with it, and then they just don't go anywhere. I feel like there was a lot of potential to build on these characters, and we just didn't do it.
No, at no point did we try to do anything with any of the stories.
No.
I'm also wondering why Tank didn't just kill Butch. Why the cage fight? Because at the end, he seemed very content with just shooting him dead to rights.
This isn't, I don't get it, because, and I'm on Pudgy's side, Jermaine Hopkins, because he's like, why are you toying with Bullet? Why don't you just kill him? Because it seems like by the end of the movie, Tank is all about trying to put him down as fast as possible. I got you in a corner. He does that. But then earlier, he's trying all these wimp ass moves of sending him poisoned heroin and having his goon fight him. But then he hits us with the bullet is mine. But he wasn't acting like that at any point up until the end.
No.
So I was very confused about Tank's motives. Seemed like he was just trying to do the cop out and not do the dirty work himself. And then by the end, all of a sudden, he's like, I'm going to shoot your ass.
It was very convenient for these scenes to happen. They wanted a fist fight scene, and so this was just how they were going to get their way. It was not good.
Let me point something out here. So on the Bullet promotional poster, the tagline is, you only get one shot at revenge. Seemed like Tank had plenty of shots, because he did the heroin lace scene, he did the beat down in the cage fight, and then he did the gun down scene later. With that tagline, is this supposed to be a revenge story for Tank?
That's what I was going to ask.
Because he got stabbed in the eye in prison? In my opinion, Bullet seems like a piece of shit, because he stabbed him in the eye. We don't know for what reason. Maybe if we had a reason, we have some sympathy on Bullet's side, on Tank's side.
It was probably the same thing Flacco did.
Mystery.
Flacco just got stabbed in the eye for saying, hey, you can't be stripping down our customers and robbing them on the roof of our building. And Bullet just goes, all right, fuck you, stab. So he stabs people in the eyes for no good reason. So I'm kind of on Tank's side here.
I don't get it.
In fact, I'm wholly on Tank's side here. Sorry.
This movie fizzles out so much that it's not bad where the entire thing is a nitpick, but I think there's just too much inconsistency with resolutions and reasonings as to why things happen in the plot, where it gets a little cloudy to nitpick it, because it's almost like an entire jumbled mess story-wise.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a perfect way to jump into talking points, and I'll go ahead and get us kicked off. So,
Please.
what was this movie? Like, was this a sort of cautionary tale? Every movie we watch, or we would hope, has some sort of beginning, middle, end, conflict resolution, character growth. But why did they make this?
It seems like it's just a reaction to genres, because two movies we shouted out and movies that I think we both find very similar to this movie is going to be New Jack City and Juice. Those are both New York crime dramas that are centered around violence or drugs or whatever. And I think this movie just gets caught up in trying to emulate and copycat other movies that have succeeded and are actually really good with no substance. I'm going to transition this into one of my talking points, and it's just going to be what the filmmakers have to say about this movie and what the point of it. And I just want to see your opinions of if we agree.
I'd love to hear this.
Not a lot of information on this movie, but here's what I got from the very limited information I could get from the internet about the producers. So Bruce Rubenstein is the writer of this movie, and he said this movie is loosely based on his life experiences growing up in New York. It makes sense. This guy's name is Bruce Rubenstein. So you're like, okay, that's why the family was Jewish. They made no ties to the religion or made any kind of thematic references to Judaism. However, it's like if I wrote a movie, it would be, this guy is a white guy from the Bay Area and he went to a private school from up until 8th grade, but then he went to a public high school. It's like, nobody cares. Like, why make it a point to point out one's religion if you're not going to thematically tie it into the story? Bruce Rubenstein is the writer, and he says in his own words, this movie is based on a dysfunctional family. He has some, if they did some more character development and storyline justice, he would have a case there. There is a dysfunctional family in the movie. However, I don't think it's about the dysfunctional family, because that poster, the tagline, makes it seem like it is a this guy butting heads movie. The dysfunctional family is more so just a side story. What do you think about that?
I 100% agree. And also, this family isn't dysfunctional. I've seen dysfunctional families. You have seen dysfunctional families. This is a heroin addict, an insane dude that is probably on a CIA watch list, and an artist's younger brother. Like, I don't.
Well, they're pretty dysfunctional.
There's dysfunctional families.
I don't think they're not dysfunctional.
Well, they are, but just to say, oh, a dysfunctional family, it goes way beyond that.
The writer said this is about the family, but it's not. It's about Tank versus Bullet.
It's just about heroin, really.
It's about getting money to get heroin and then doing heroin.
That's exactly what this movie's about. So, yeah, at no point is the family, like, I would have loved if there was more build up with the relationship with the dad and the mom and what happened to Lewis and the stress it put on the family to have Bullock go away to prison for so long. Ruby struggling with, I want to be an artist versus I'm being dragged into the streets. None of that. We saw none of that happening.
It's another case of just starting too many interesting storylines and having zero payoff for any of them.
Yeah.
Let me hit you with what producer John Flock said. He said in this vintage interview I found with him, he said, I think the message behind the film is that there's a little good in everybody. Bullet seems to be irredeemable, but what we find out in the third act is that he's been building towards finding a way of saving his brother from not repeating the same mistakes that he's been through. Nick, your gut reaction to that?
I just couldn't disagree with that more. He is dragging his brother down into crime constantly.
Like we point out. To me, like when I was watching these interviews, I just thought, man, these guys just wanted to make a movie that was set in New York and based around drugs and based around gangs, and they are bullshitting their way through this interview.
Yeah, because I had another point to bring up about the symbolism, right? There's this red and blue lights motif, right? That you constantly see flashing in the background, or I think they're also flashing in Lewis's room, and they're in random windows in the neighborhood. And I understand it's police, but the cops don't play a role in this movie at all. Like at no point is Bullet about to get caught doing heroin, and people are just dying nonstop, and the cops are nowhere to be seen. Like you said, the Jewish symbolism, the mural that Ruby paints, like they're adding in all this symbolism for the sake of being artsy, it feels like. And it doesn't go with the motif of the movie, if there even is a motif of the movie. It all feels jumbled together. Like you said, I think you nailed it. It's just a sign of the times, and they tried to jump in like, oh, these gritty urban crime stories are cool, we're going to get in on this. And just awful.
Terrible. I do have a fun fact, because when I was deep diving the producers, so executive producer Graham Burke of this movie was also a producer of Mad Max Fury Road, so he had a little bit of a glow up.
Good for him.
Producer connection there.
Didn't let Bullet take him down.
To wrap up our sentiments, I'll just finish that Variety article from 1997 written by David Stratton. He says, this ties into the Jewish symbolism. He says, occasionally it seems as though Butch, who always wears a Star of David badge, is being offered as a tragic figure, a talented sportsman who could have been a contender but wasted himself away on drugs and crime. But Rourke just can't make his character interesting, and allusions to the Holocaust via images seen on TV are in poor taste under the circumstances. I didn't even catch that. I didn't know there was Holocaust footage on the TV.
Yeah, in Lewis's room.
I wanted to talk about Tupac. So Tupac had a large acting spurt in the 90s. Like we said, he was one of the stars of Juice. He did actually die in 1996. And I think that, like, I don't know when this movie came out, and it sounded like it went straight to video, but it released in Australia. Tupac is a major name. He's going to draw audiences in. They made it a point to feature him on the poster. I thought this was going to be more buddy action movie, but he's not in it that much. And I really think the filmmakers just used Tupac's name and image to boost the audience, kind of boost the numbers of attendees in the very limited theaters, or boost VHS sales. I don't know, but Tupac he's a highlight. He's very charismatic. I think he's actually a very good actor. We saw that in Juice. This one, the character is not written super great, but I'd still think he added value to the movie. However, I think they were really banking on just the name alone of rap star turned actor Tupac.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we're disappointed because he has barely any on-screen time or character development.
Yeah, and the screen time he does have, they just have written him so poorly as a character that you don't see any depth to it. And we know he has that because we've reviewed Juice, and it's very good, and he's very good in that. So we know he's a dynamic actor, but I can't say that any character or actor in this movie stood out because the writing was so bad.
I blame the crew.
Yeah, absolutely.
I blame the writer's room. I blame the director. I blame the crew. I blame the creatives, I should say.
Yeah, and Mickey Rourke was credited as a writer. I don't know how much writing he did of this, but shame on you too.
Did you write down Cornspiracy?
I have a Cornspiracy for you.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that Bishop died when he fell off of that rooftop.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think he died when he fell off of that rooftop. I don't know what happened to him. He may have fell into a dumpster, may have hit one of those bodega overhangs, like the classic bounce down.
Like a Temple of Doom.
Yeah, exactly.
Situation.
So we could have had that, or like an Aladdin, boing. So I think that's happened. I think Bishop had to remake himself after all of this and all the heat that was on him, and has now made himself Tank.
Is this an amnesia thing, or is this I'm taking on a new persona thing?
Taking on a new persona. He moved from Harlem, to more of the Queens area of
Brooklyn.
Over here in New York, or Brooklyn area. I don't know the boroughs very well.
Hey, forget about it.
To the Brooklyn area of New York, and has, it built up his little empire. I'm wondering if Steele also didn't fully die.
No, he didn't.
No,
he survived.
You're right.
So hold up. Did he suffer from Stockholm syndrome and go back to his master and renamed himself Pudgy?
That's what I'm thinking.
Or Bishop /Tank just refers to him as Pudgy. further insult to injury of I capped your ass in juice, and now you're my lackey in Bullet.
Has him under his psychological thumb, calling him Pudgy.
That could totally work.
I'm pretty into this right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I want you to flesh that out for the end of the year conspiracy segment.
I'd love to.
Give me the deets. Give me the deets.
I gotcha.
Well, speaking of end of the year, we got to get into our awards. Here comes the mini pops. Nick, we're going to start out our mini pops, our awards for this movie with the best weapon. What was the best weapon in this movie? I have a couple ideas. I figured the laced heroin was pretty lethal, pretty precise. Lewis's super knife, which he sharpened and he slit Tank's throat with, was pretty deadly. I just wish that giant gun came into play. This is the gun that he shows Lester and Butch, and he says, this is just something I've been working on. It could stop a tank at 500 yards. Why was this never busted out?
Probably the budget. Budget just didn't allow for such a thing. Yeah, tank shotgun.
That
is
Barry
the only
White
other...
song and the diner shootout.
The only other thing is tank shotgun.
Like you said, Nick, we can't have the best weapon slew at the end of the year just be guns.
So I think the lace heroin, that shit's deadly.
It was very precise.
And you don't see it coming unless you're doing heroin.
Yes.
That's the problem. You can only use it on a heroin addict. Your target list is a little small. How about the pink Cadillac?
It's up there, but I don't think it killed the guy. It killed the guy.
No death.
We're going to go with laced heroin.
I got to go with lace heroin here.
Speaking of violence, getting down and dirty, Nick, choose your fighter. Who threw down the best? Who was our best fighter in this movie?
The only guy who really did any fighting, and that would be Bullet. Handled the two white kids in the club bathroom. Obviously fought Tank's goon.
Like I said, 10 minutes in, he stabs a guy in the eye with a switchblade. Only guy I think that can go up against him is Lewis because he does slit Tank's throat at the end. However, I think Bullet took the most beatings and dealt the most punches and switchblades to the eyes.
I agree. I'm going Bullet.
It's Bullet, baby.
All right, James. You got to tell me, who's your most valuable character of this movie?
Most valuable character, I got to hand it to crazy old Lewis. And we talked about how many characters had so many interesting character arcs that could be started and seen through and finished. However, I think Lewis had a little bit more on-screen time of how messed up he was from the Vietnam War. He provides a lot of comedy moments. I mean, I at least I think the child army scene is pretty goddamn funny. I don't know if it's supposed
hilarious.
to be funny, but he's a funny character, and he is almost like the rational voice in this movie because he is perceiving things as an audience member because he's tapping into conversations, just how the voyeurism of movie watchers are seeing this dysfunctional family's lives play out. He knows he's crazy. He is crazy, but he is self-aware of what's going on. He's almost our guide in this movie of the chaos and craziness that happens. And he is the one who kills Tank at the end. So he is just very useful and hilarious. How about yourself? Who do you got for NBC?
I agree with you. He's the most dynamic character in the movie. Like you said, he is the most normal one. For being crazy, he's the only person who can see through all of the bullshit. For a movie that has no character arcs or character development, he has the closest thing resembling that.
Opposite effect, Nick. Who was the biggest piece of shit in this movie?
It's Bullet. I mean, absolutely no questions asked. He gets out of prison. He immediately takes his little brother and his best friend to go get some heroin. Peer pressures them into doing heroin with him. Then he goes, stabs a dude in the eyeball, goes home, high, laughs at his parents, goes out again, scoring more heroin, getting his friends all in a lot of trouble, stealing from the neighbors. I mean, at no point did he do, I don't think he ever did a good thing. I don't think he did any good thing. And I know we're supposed to think, oh, in the end, he redeemed himself by getting that money for his brother. You stole money, pawned it off, and then gave it to your brother. So your brother now has dirty money to get out of there with. Like, I don't know. He's a bad person.
You took the words exactly out of my mouth. He is the biggest piece of shit of this movie. I love it when the title character is the biggest POS of a movie.
Absolutely. No questions asked. All right, James, do you have a worst scene in this movie?
Oh man, a lot of nominations here. I feel like I have to go with the Ruby running over the guy with the pink Cadillac, and then he gets out and he's like, "No, please, don't hurt me." And then he stabs him in the hand, and it's just a terrible excuse to put his painting hand out of commission. I just thought it was a super weak plot point and sympathy moment for the character to be like, "Oh no, my brother wanted to go score, and now my hand's been stabbed because I'm here." It's like, well, first of all, our biggest POS in the movie dragged you along. Secondly, you agreed to go along. Third of all, you ran over the homeboy. Fourth of all, you got out of the car and got your goddamn hand stabbed in one of the worst edited sequences of the movie. Completely avoidable. Just didn't sit right for me. That I just looked at that scene off the bat and said, "This is our standards. I hope it can only go up from here."
Do you want to take it one step above that?
Sure.
The stabbed hand is not an obstacle for the rest of the movie. At no point is
No,
he
he
not
just-
able to do his art.
He duct tapes the paintbrush to his hand across his palm and then is still able to paint.
Yeah, he paints just fine. It's never a roadblock for the movie. That never comes home to roost.
We are not roosting.
No.
Nick, worst scene. What do you got?
It was a tie for me between the concrete street brawl fight scene. It just seemed really forced and weird. And then the Coney Island batting cages scene where Bullet's just calling Lester gay. Because I don't understand it. I don't understand why it needed to be in the movie. Right? It comes out of nowhere and then goes nowhere.
Like most things in this movie.
It was weird. The whole movie was weird. The fight scene was really bad too. It was really poorly choreographed. And why didn't he just kill him? Why didn't Tank just kill him right there? I don't
Nick,
get it.
Let me drag you out of this. Let me drag you out of this worst scene debacle. We can't decide. It's just all awful. Here's a real challenge. What was the best scene of this movie?
Oh, it's Lewis and the Child Soldiers.
Yes, that's what I had too.
Hands down.
That's what I
every day of the week.
It's so
dude.
funny.
It's good.
Give us a bit of comedy and a little bit more insight into Lewis as a character and how lunatic he is.
Yeah.
Nick, let's wrap up talking points and transition into our final review with sarcastic selling points. I'm just going to go first because this one came to me right away. Nick, this is Jewish New Jack City, and you can call it New Jew City or Jew Jack City. And we made a lot of allusions to the movie Juice, so you can just call it Juice, spelled Jewce.
Nice. Well, we're on the same wavelength because I just wrote down New Jack Shitty.
Final review. Fight.
Here's what the other guys are saying about 1996's Bullet. We're going to start out with Rotten Tomatoes. The critics don't have a score for this. No tomato, no tomato.
No, but the audience has it at 70%.
All right. Well, moving over to Metacritic. Once again, critics, not any critic reviews. Sorry, out of order.
No reviews from the people either. We're blanked out here.
And now our eye-shankin', big tankin', Barry White, high as a kite score from IMDb, a 6.4. Oh, we be on the same page and busting rhymes, Nick, like we're Tupac Shakur with that score of a 6.4. Am I right?
Whoa.
And we're high as a kite. Barry White. Never, never, never gonna give up. Nick, it is your turn to hit the audience with a laughable log line, your popcorn points, and final thoughts. Go.
All right. My laughable log line here is a drug addict gets out of jail, continues to do drugs, and dies. Oh, what are the popcorn points here? So I'm a little torn here, James, because 2 weeks ago, for Leonard Part 6. I don't want to just keep going destroying this movie, but I'm going to give it a 0.7.
Wow, that's really low.
Well, yeah, it is very low. The cast did do all right? The Tupac Shakur. I liked Lewis's character. Lewis's character was good. There was, we talked about it all throughout Plot Talk. There's potential for things to happen, and then nothing ever happened. I didn't get any
So-
emotional payoff, any
Sorry.
sort of payoff of
Is this
anything like
worse than Cimarron for you?
that. Yeah, Cimarron had a storyline.
Did it?
That's where it got its
I'm not saying this one does.
More than
I'm not saying
this?
this one does, but
Yeah.
did that one have it?
more so than this. More so than this,
Okay.
for sure.
All right.
Not by much, right? It's not a huge chasm here. They're pretty close here on the scale. But I
Where's
just
Black Moon
can't
Rising?
really.
What did we do that? You gave Black Moon Rising a 1.9.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day of the week.
Okay. All right.
It was
I'm just checking here.
Black Moon Rising was bad, but it wasn't incoherent at times, right? I don't know who the hero is of the story. I don't know who the villain is of the story. I don't know the point of this story. I don't know why it's being told. There's random symbolism that has nothing to do with anything. It was just a mess. And I think, James, you nailed it when you said they were just trying to latch on to the moment. I hate people who don't have an idea or an original thought and they go, oh, this type of movie is really hot right now. Let's just spit out some garbage that's similar to that, to a Juice or New Jack City or that urban thriller. There was no thrills. There was no drama. I don't even know what I would classify this as on a genre of a film. And we were cutting between characters, fading in, fading out. Oh, he's high. Now he's going to do X, Y, Z. And I think what really upset me was, it felt like I was being forced to see Bullet as a redeemed character at the end. He was this struggling soul who eventually, was redeemed. Even the writer said it in his interview, right? The redemption in Act 3. I didn't even think there were separate acts in this movie. It was all just one continuous garbage heap. But there was no redemption. So it felt like the filmmakers were trying to paint me a story about redemption, and they thought they did it, and they just missed the mark so bad. So no, I don't think this even deserves a 1. There's a reason that nobody knows about this movie and nobody's rated it on Rotten Tomatoes and no one's rated it on Metacritic. It's forgotten, and it deserves to be forgotten because it's bad. It's bad. The only thing holding it up are Lewis and Tupac, really, in my eyes. And a little Adrian Brody. He didn't do bad.
Okay, there it is from the corn dog himself. I'll hit you with my laughable logline, and then I will dive into my points. Laughable logline is: a Jewish heroin addict is released from prison, gets immediately back into heroin and crime while involving his fucked up family. I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking at my scores, and it is a little bit of a goddamn mess and unrewarding at the end. And I'm looking at my scores. I've actually not handed out, I thought I handed out no ones, but I did give Santa Claus Conquers the Martians a 1, flat 1. So with this movie, I was thinking maybe in the 3s. However, I would probably never watch this again. And after we really unpack this movie, it's not good. It's really bad. So I'm gonna hit this with a 1.5. And Nick, I really don't have that much to add after your whole breakdown of this movie of why it's not good, because we discussed it. You can hear it in our sentiments of the movie and how confused we were, and so much unrewarding storylines and characters. It's not good. I was really wanting it to be good. I was hoping Mickey Rourke and Tupac were going to be on screen together a lot more of the movie, and we were going to have a lot more interesting dynamics. It just seemed a little bit too forced, a little bit too cookie cutter, and just trying to copycat on the genre of crime dramas. This movie doesn't have its own unique voice or identity. I don't understand the arcs. I don't know what the message is. I get conflicting evidence from the filmmakers. The writer says it's about a dysfunctional family, and one of the producers says it's about everyone has a little bit of good in them. That didn't come across at all. At all. The 1.5, if you're wondering, audience, it does come from Ted Levine and it comes from Tupac, exactly where Nick left off his review. Because Ted Levine, his character was interesting, his character was funny, and Tupac is one of my favorite rappers ever, and I think he's a good actor, and I think he adds value to whatever movie he's in, despite how bad it is. However, 1.5 from Captain Pop. You can't convince me it's any better than that, which brings this movie to an average score of a 1.1. What a drop off from last times of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That seems to be a little bit of a theme. I feel like we hit a really high number and then we just get shot down to earth with a low ass number, dude.
Not the first time it's happened. Not the last time it's going to happen.
No, apparently that's our thing. And apparently that is 1996 or 95's Bullet. We don't know when it was released. It doesn't deserve to be known, but we thank you guys for listening. And we invite you to follow us, keep listening. We're on socials, Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. We are on X, aka Twitter, at Just Play It Pod. Please join us next week because we're going to be hitting up that NCU. We're going back to superhero genres. This may not be a case of going high after going low because apparently this is a flop and it's going to be our first flopbuster of the year. We're so excited to get back into that not so cinematic universe.
Yeah, this is technically a sequel of another NCU movie that we have watched previously that didn't do well. So we'll see.
Not at all. And just like this movie, it did not do well. Heading gone. And remember, if you went to jail for 8 years for a crime you didn't commit, the minute you get out of prison, you should immediately get back into drugs and crime and hood rat shit with your friends and try and get back into prison ASAP or get murdered. Because if you don't live life by the bullet, then what are you even doing, you jabroni? Don't be a gazoonie. Shooting up heroin in my Cadillac. Shooting it up all night.
Never gonna get